Okay, our next assignment is to take our finished spot illustration, which we made to be a certain shape that has a transparent background that's versatile for different uses. And now we're going to take that spot illustration and we're going to add a text component, some sort of font design, some typography that will support it and put it onto a poster. So this is going to be a Godzilla poster using my spot illustration and supporting it. And I need to now design the text. So the first thing we do is we always make a sketch of it. This is going to be a portrait format poster, taller than it is wide. I want the text to be blocky, kind of grungy looking. And then I want to have the kanji characters from Japan underneath. So I've done some research, and these were my favorite images that I found. I love this old comic and this kind of blocky, kind of prehistoric looking text. And then here's some of the kanji characters. I like how they made this into a more interesting character with the Godzilla tail. Maybe that's something I can be inspired by. So what do we do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is open up our spot illustration in Illustrator now that we have this text. So I'm going to take my spot illustration from assignment 10, open it in Illustrator, the PNG file, so it doesn't have a white background behind it. And I continue to improve my spot illustration. I encourage you to do that too. At the end of the demo, I had this. This was the one that used kind of full color separation. But then I brought it back in over the top of my original spot illustration. And the one I'm going to be using is this one, which kind of blends the two a little bit more smoothly. It has the clean white on top. And then it uses the gradated color steps on top of the flat color in a way that I think is pretty attractive. So this is also an opportunity to make our spot illustration just as strong as it can be. All right, so we're going to be opening that up in Illustrator. And we want to be informed by our sketch, right? And because we know we want a poster as our format, we are not just going to use the default page they give us, the artboard they give us. We're actually going to edit the artboard. And we are going to make it a custom size. So I'll start by fitting it to the artwork bounds. But I want to make it really big and portrait format. So maybe about a B4, which is roughly poster size in America. Roughly 20 by 25 inches, something like that, 18 by 24 inches. Okay. And if you want, you can always adjust the artboards by putting in your own points. So I'm going to actually do 900 point width by 1200 point height. Now, does it actually matter all that much? No, it does not. Remember, the vectors aren't scalable. This is if we were going to be printing directly from Illustrator, but it will help me kind of see my fonts in relation to my spot illustration, which is just a raster. So I'm not going to bother vectorizing my raster image. What I will do is lock that layer and create a new layer on top, and this will be my text. Okay, now text tools in Illustrator, we've only talked about these briefly. the first thing you do is you use the text tool, the T, and you block in where you want text to appear. The default is as a black fill. And then you pick a font and a point size. Because fonts have point sizes, that's another reason you might want to change your artboard. So let's make it really big, maybe 240 points. And then I just type it in. Right? And if your font's too large, it won't fit into the whole text box. Right? So a text box can help kind of limit the space you use. But you can also just type without a text box. At whatever size you think. So I'm going to use Myriad Pro, regular. I'm going to use bold at 240 points and type in Godzilla, all capitals, which helps space it. And then I'm just going to use the large selection tool and move that on its own. Now each bit of text that you write separately will be its own path in your layer. So I'll delete this old one. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Okay, and now with the large selection tool, I can move this anywhere I want, and I can transform it, hold down Shift and Option, and scale it perfectly towards the center. I can change its color. And nothing fancy. It's like putting it into a PowerPoint, right? But this isn't the kind of dynamic image I want, like I have in my sketch. First of all, I want it to curve. So how can I curve it? Well, instead of just the regular type tool, we can do the type on path tool, which is always very handy. So what I'm going to do is use the pen tool, and I'm going to start a curve right here and end it right here, and then bend it, holding down Shift so it stays at 45 degrees. Whoops. Until I get a very even curve. I moved that one a little bit too far. So let me use the small selection tool, bring this anchor in a little bit. Holding down Shift, shallow that out. And I'm going to create the curve that I want to go on the text, or that I want the text to follow. Okay, so if that's the curve I want, I'm actually going to make it empty. So it doesn't have a fill and it doesn't have a stroke. It's just a path for me to write text on. And then what I'll do is I'll use my text tool, but I'm going to change it to the type on path tool. Click on that path, and then type in Godzilla. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And a little bit smaller still, just so it fits where I want it to fit. It can get a little technical at times. Okay. So now it's working there. If I need to, I can put a space and it will still be on the path. But this is actually where it gets kind of fun. Let's not put a space and let's play with all the different features of the type while it's still a type tool. We can center it using the alignment. We can obviously play with the font. Okay. Now the problem is this is a very basic font and doesn't have the character I want. So very generous designers on this site called DaFont make fonts available for us to use and immediately be able to use in programs like Photoshop and Illustrator. So if I go to DaFont and I actually looked up this theme, Destroy, and it gives me a lot of these really kind of messy blocky fonts, which are the kind of thing that I can work with. So there's a few I like. I like Soul Mission, so I'm going to download it. There are 32 pages of these things. And if it was a paid job, I'd take the time to go through all. Let's go. The other one I liked was Bad Grunge, so I'm going to download that. If you click on the page, you can actually get a preview of whatever text you want. And so I'll often do that. So that's how Godzilla would look in this text. What was the other one I was thinking of? Soul Mission. I kind of like Rock's Death too. Let's see how Godzilla looks. Now the reason we do this isn't just to let someone else do the typography for us. Ooh, that one looks really nice. It's to have a better place to start, a place that gets us closer by the time we modify. Okay, so I have 3 options here. I want to add all of those into what's called my font book. So I go to Downloads, which hopefully doesn't have too much in it. I'm going to unzip all of these files. Oops. And then I'm going to double click on them and say Install Font. It takes a little bit of time. It puts it into your font book. Remember the name. That's how you'll find it. Install the font. Rock's Death. That's the one I like. And then the last one, Soul Mission. It's always the file that has the big A. That's what you want to install. So now I've installed those in my font book, all 3 of those. And now when I go back to Illustrator, on older versions, you have to restart it. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this as my text design of Godzilla. And it's going to be an AI file that I save to the desktop while I'm working on it. This is my working file format. And I'll see if Rock's Death is an option here now. And it is indeed. So I'm going to select these, and I'm going to change it now after I saved it, just in case things go bad. And I'll use my new font. Now, is that close to what I envisioned? It's pretty close, maybe a little bit smaller. So let me enlarge it a little bit using the given tools. And I don't need to use this. I can also use the large selection tool. Right. You can also play with the spacing between the letters. I like to use capitals because they tend to space out really well. But what I'll often do is add my own spacing and then change the point size of the spacing to customize it. So maybe make them 10 points in between each. And that allows me to to fix what's called the kerning between the letters.